I'd like to call the regular Mentor City Council meeting, February 21st, 2023 to order. The invocation will be given by Councilperson Dowling.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Pledge allegiance. Julie, please call the roll.
Dowling.
Here.
Mr. Freeman.
Here.
Mr. Kirchner.
Here.
Mr. Krieger.
Here.
Mr. Marne.
Here.
Mr. Blake.
Here.
Mr. Donovan.
Here. Council, you're in receipt of the February 7th, 2023 work session. Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes. You're also in receipt of the February 7th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes. Public hearings, we have none. Tabled legislation, we have none. New legislation. Ordinance number 23-0-016.
An ordinance to authorize advances of funds and revisions to appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this ordinance does two things. Firstly, it authorizes a temporary cash advance out of the city's general fund in the amount of $600,000, and that is designated to go to our street fund. That will allow us to issue the purchase order for the pending road program primarily, and also continue to buy salt and other things we need. Secondly, there are three appropriation revisions, all to special revenue funds that are noted in the staff report. We need additional appropriations to make that spending. I would recommend approval of the entire ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Council, move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes. Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes. Ordinance number 23-0-016 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-017. Mr. Flippia. I'm sorry.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Excel Corporation for the purchase of pavement marking paint.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Schweiger, please.
Thank you. Bids were open on February 10th for the purchase of roadway striping paint. This is the paint used by city forces in striping public roadways and city-owned parking lots. 2 bids were received in response to our public notice. The lowest compliant bid was submitted by the Excel Corporation of Mentor, who has successfully provided our paint for the past 2 years. While Sherwin-Williams submitted a lower per-gallon price, their paint would be delivered in 5-gallon buckets as opposed to the 55-gallon drum that we specified. As a result, there would be considerable labor involved in emptying the buckets into the larger 55-gallon drums, which ride on the paint striping vehicle. Sherwin-Williams also failed to include the required bid bond. Based on Excel's bid prices and last year's usage, it is anticipated that we will spend approximately $76,000 to $6,000 on road paint this year, which is down about 3% from last year. My recommendation that the city manager be authorized to enter into a contract with the Excel Corporation for the purchase of this paint. Thank you.
Council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Marne.
Mr. Flippak, now that we have a full year underneath our belts of doing it in-house, so to speak, in terms of striping, have we done a study or taken a look at cost differences and how efficient it is or not efficient it is and things of that nature?
From a cost standpoint, Councilman, I think it's probably easy to say we're probably saving close to $100,000 a year. Is that a fair statement there, Mr. Schweikert? Our crews are getting better and better each time they go out and use the equipment. I think the benefit that we have, as much as anything, is that if we ever need to redo an area, and there have been, council has been aware in the many past years where certain sections just wear out faster because of additional traffic, and we're able to hit those a little bit as often as we need to. Obviously, it's still weather dependent, but it's been a real benefit to us, both from a financial standpoint, and quite frankly, our guys are just doing a very good job with it, and it's nice to bring that skill in-house.
All right, thank you.
And this is one of the few things that is actually less expensive than it was a year ago. So you're not going to hear that very often, but
No.
Thank you, Mr. Flippia. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 23-0-017 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-018.
An ordinance accepting and authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council for the 2023 Energized Community Grant Program to perform all actions necessary to accept grant funds and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia?
thank you, Mr. President. We've been receiving these grants for a number of years now through NOPEC. Mr. Schweikert and his staff has done a good job of administering these. Mr. Schweikert, you want to talk a little bit about some of the projects we've been able to do?
For the fifth consecutive year, the city manager is eligible to receive the grant through the NOPEC Energized Community Grant. 2023 grant will be $117,392, and these funds are intended to be used for energy savings projects. Past use of these funds included new boilers for the pools at Civic Center and Morton Parks, along with new exterior windows at the police department. We've also done rooftop units, HVAC equipment, and various city buildings. You know, we tend to look for kind of a win-win, where not only are we getting energy savings, but we're also replacing equipment that would otherwise have been needed to be replaced. So that way we kind of double up on the benefit. So that's what this year we're hoping to mainly look at a lot of needs at the new rec center.
Thank you, Mr. Schweikert. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 23-0-018 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-019.
An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a Mentor Economic Development Grant with Serenity, Inc.
Mr. Flippia?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malachek, please.
Thank you, Mr. Flipiak. Serenity Integrative Med Spa is an integrative medical spa focused on health and beauty with services in the medical, aesthetic, detoxification, bodywork, and massage categories. Facilities over 6,000 square feet located at 7511 Mentor Avenue, Unit 9. They have had an initial investment of $630,000. Recently have opened. They employ 8 current employees and plan to add an additional 10 employees by the end of 2025. New payroll is expected to be an additional $200,000 for this year, 2023, with their opening, and $425,000 by the end of 2025. This will be additional to the base payroll that exists. We are recommending an economic development grant for the purchase of medical equipment and for renovations in the amount of $5,000.
Council, any comments?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 23-0-019 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-020.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a change order to Zerby Construction LLC for the Springbrook Gardens Park Pavilion project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia?
Thank you, Mr. President. And Council, when the design of the Springbrook structure was completed, it was done with a basic concrete finished floor. We took a look at that. I know that Mr. Kaminsky's been hands-on with that project since the beginning. Doesn't look that great. I think we'd like something a lot more durable. We'd rather not spend money on sealing or finishing it with, say, an epoxy floor. So we're recommending a ceramic tile, which will actually extend into the bathroom facilities. And I think Mr. Kaminsky can answer any question you have on that.
Council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Blake?
when we first put this together, I kind of thought of that building as more like a field house, because it's in the middle of a field. So that concrete floor with a clear coat finish really made sense to me, because if you have programming out there, you've got muddy boots coming in and all sorts of things rolling across that floor. My concern with this ceramic tile that we're going to put on there, is it going to be durable enough to stand up to what the demands are possibly going to be there? I mean, you're going to have tables being dragged across it. You've got tile grout in between the tiles. I didn't see any samples, so I looked it up on the internet in terms of, you know, the description of what these planks are. So my concern is for durability versus the concrete floor, which I thought the concrete floor would be nice.
Yeah, actually, the durability was one of the primary reasons for going with the ceramic tile. It's a very durable product. Our concern is such that we would see some significant deterioration of the concrete floor from the same thing, from dragging the tables and that across. Ceramic is a much more durable product than the even a sealed concrete floor. Do you concur with that, Mr. Kaminsky?
Absolutely, and in our research with CT Consultants as well as the general contractor, they indicated the durability of it as well.
Okay.
I'm going to have Mr. Fowler grab a sample of that. We did have some, and I meant to walk them in here if council wants to have a look at that. Large plank flooring, again, not unlike we would have in many of our other facilities. Probably a good example is the hallway, or the lobby in this building. That's original tile. It's been there since this building was constructed, and it has held up extraordinarily well.
So do we get a warranty on this product? I mean, if something cracks, I'd imagine it's going to be hard to replace a plank. I mean, is it warranted for any period of
I'm sure there is a warranty on the product. That isn't necessarily the color we're going with. You just grab we have 4 choices. But I'm sure that product has a warranty. I can't tell you off the top of my head what it is. Actually, to the contrary, it's actually a very easy product to replace.
Mr. Pope,
You would just bust a piece out.
yes, it is. You cut it out with a tile cutter and you put a new one in and grout it back up.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And we would, like we do with most flooring replacement in our facilities, we would keep a certain amount on hand in that event.
So that's 4,000 square feet. It's pretty much the whole entire.
This would be the entire facility, absent mechanical rooms, storage rooms. We
I think the
obviously aren't going to
bathrooms already
invest in
have their own
anything
tile.
significant there.
Correct.
So the bathrooms already have their own tiles.
That's
It's not
correct. The
gonna be
bathroom
this.
already has tile in it.
This is just the main floor area that would be the change.
Okay.
Council?
Mr. President?
Oh, Stelling.
Just a comment, Sean. I have 3,000 square foot area that we did concrete floor and put a sealer on, and it was one of the biggest mistakes we ever made. It did not stay looking nice. It started coming up, and then you've got a major thing to remove it. So it's not attractive, and it really did not hold up well for us.
If I could add to council on that point, this will be very attractive in this facility. This facility is looking beautiful. If you had, I know most of you have had a chance to visit there, and it's a little tricky to get to right now because it's muddy and it's fenced in. But you know, it's a very beautiful structure. It's going to host a lot of events like wedding receptions and family gatherings and city events. And quite frankly, a cement floor just doesn't do it justice, not just from a durability standpoint, but I don't think it will represent well as a finished product.
Thank you, Mr. Flippia. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second?
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Ordinance number 23-0-020 is approved. We have a resolution, resolution number 23-R-104.
Resolution of intent to appropriate the fee simple interest in the property located at 8423 Munson Road and known as permanent parcel number 16C 085A000010 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marne.
I move to table this item due to pending negotiations.
Second.
So we have a second. Julie, call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes. Resolution number 23-R-104 is tabled. Second readings, we have none. Third readings, we have none. Managers report. Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President, Council. Council, there will be a curbside produce distribution for in-need seniors on Monday, February 27th from 10 to 11 a.m. at the Mentor Senior Center. This event will be held in conjunction with the Cleveland Food Bank produce distribution and is only for limited income seniors. No advance registration is required. Simply need to bring a photo ID for on-site registration. And they can call the Mentor Senior Center at 440-974-5725 for details or questions on income eligibility. Waste collection, just a reminder to our residents that waste collection is on the normal schedule this week. It's not delayed because of the President's Day holiday. This past weekend, the Parks and Recreation Department relocated its physical office location from City Hall to the new Mentor Recreation Center on Heisley Road. So we don't get a lot of walk-in business like we used to because most of our work is done online now for registrations and that. But for those who do desire to walk in, they will do so at the new community center on Heisley Road. Just a reminder, the center is not open for use yet, but administrative activities are taking place there going forward. And then finally, Council, we have several new businesses to welcome into our community. Omorpha Derma Aesthetics and Permanent Makeup at 8353 Mentor Avenue, Smoker's Crib at 8320 Tyler Boulevard, My Mindful Market at 7383 Lakeshore Boulevard, and Yeti Vape at 7773 Mentor Avenue. So we thank them for confidence in our community, and we wish them success going forward. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Flippia. You think Omorpha can make me look good? Thanks a lot.
Mr. President,
Mr. Marne.
Mr. Flippik, two items. First of all, on behalf of Mr. Zampedro, former assistant manager, Mr. Zampedro, I want to thank you for putting together his resolution. He was very much tickled by it, and the thoughtfulness and the thoroughness you put together with it, it was a great job. Also, number two is, we had our big 5-alarm fire, I guess, last Friday in Willoughby, if that's what you would call it. But I firsthand was at Fitworks Thursday morning, and the gym filled with smoke, so they called our men and women in blue. And the speed and efficiency that they had, they were there instantaneously. They were professional. They evacuated the gym. I was thoroughly impressed, and I know it goes both ways, both with police and fire. But it was something that was very nice, and got to meet some of the new kids, so to speak, that I haven't met before. They don't look like they're old enough to drive, much less be firemen and firewomen. And then lastly, it was my birthday this past Sunday, and the first on the scene was, as we all know, Dave Zalba. And I didn't realize that we did this, but we hand out to little kids when they go to different places, and especially when it's their birthday, the hats and the Mentor Fire Department badge. And so I was given this, and I brought it home, and both my kids said they're now seniors in college and a senior in high school. Where it's like, oh my God, I didn't believe we still did that, and I never knew that we did that. So it just goes to show you the little extra thoughtfulness and caring that we go out of our way for. So I really appreciate it, and it's a job well done. But my kids were saying who was going to get it. I said, no one's getting it. It's going on at the top of the mantle type thing that I have there, so it's going to sit there for me. But great job, you guys, for everything that you guys do. We really appreciate both police and fire.
Thank you, Mr. Marne. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Freeman.
In regards to what's recently happened in New Palestine, I thought it would be worth if the administration could briefly talk about the city's capabilities in regards to hazardous material incidents. A train wreck is not a hypothetical thing in this city. We had one occur in Paynesville in 2007, so I know that the safety forces here are familiar. It was not as disastrous or impactful, thank God, as what looks to be unfolding in New Palestine. But I thought it would be beneficial to briefly talk about the capabilities. And also, I know that often the departments look at case studies to learn from, if they're comfortable commenting whether there's any lessons learned thus far from what's occurred down there, and whether any additional training or equipment or materials may be something we would like to consider. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I'm going to turn this over to the chief in just a second. I would just say that in this case, a hazardous material response is, these are always coordinated efforts. I mean, Lake County has a hazardous response team, which we are a part of, in multiple jurisdictions participate and have participated in that on a regular basis. But as you're seeing in the incident that you mentioned, these are predominantly local responses with coordinated efforts and mutual aid. Obviously, there's a state response that is included, and to a much more limited sense of federal oversight. But that it's always a coordinated effort, and not just entirely public as well. And we coordinate with private industry as well that become a part of our coordinated response plans and ultimately efforts. But Chief Searles, do you want to talk a little bit about how we do it here in
Sure.
Lake County?
Thank you, Mr. Flippek, and thank you, Councilman Freeman, for bringing this subject up. There's no doubt that the train derailment in Columbia County would have been a lot more complex in our area due to our local population density. As the manager said, it is a coordinated response effort. They're big deal events. We have chemicals that come through our city every day because the rail is a common carrier, and we have two rails that come through our city, the Norfolk Southern at the south end and CSX on the north end. So we see a lot of transports through our community. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been on a lot of rail incidents. We've had cars hit at crossings and problems along the tracks, but through my time here, there's been 3 train derailments that I've responded to, and I think there's been a total of 4 in the city. The first was in 1905 when we had 21 passengers on a 65-passenger train killed when it ran the tracks at the station, Hard Street station. There was one in the early 90s that I responded to down on Industrial Parkway, another one in the late 90s that I responded to that was east of 306 and involved some chemical release. And then, of course, the one you know of was in 2007 at the Paynesville Mentor Corporation line, and it involved about 20 cars that had gone off the tracks with some fire. It took 2.5 days to control. But as the manager mentioned, I think the key is to have a cooperative interagency response. And we're fortunate enough in our area to have a lot of resources, a robust response. But bigger than that is the cooperation that we have with our neighboring communities, the key stakeholders, private industry, and everybody that is needed to manage those type of incidents. To follow up on your question, we have learned lessons from all these train derailments. I think the biggest lessons I learned is how to organize and manage and cooperate with the other agencies and rely on each other. And I'd like to thank Council and administration for that ability to do that on a day-to-day basis, because we just don't have big deal events with train derailments. We had the fire in Willoughby the other day. We've had marsh fires, and I think some of the key to our success is how we work as a public safety delivery system, not just here in Lake County, but within our region, and how we coordinate those efforts. Since our last train derailment, we've improved some of our communications. We now have a notification system at a county level, which is a WIN system. We have other technology, which are drones and some things that just are small things, but they assist us in our ability to recon and do our job. But I'd like to talk about our hazmat team for a little bit because it is a county hazmat team. It's a shared service throughout Lake County, but it's a recognized service that is state recognized. It's deployable on a FEMA level. There's only 10 Type 1 hazmat teams in the state of Ohio. Lake County has one of them. There's about 60 members on that team, and that's just not public safety responders. That's community officials. We have 11 members on our department that are part of that team. We have one of the county hazmat vehicles that's here housed in Mentor, and it allows us to do a lot of good things. Since the train derailment that we had with CSX with the vinyl acetate leak years ago, we had an opportunity to partner with CSX, the train, the rail companies, the responders from chemical companies, everybody that's called when there is a mishap to that level that come out and play. We've been able to learn from, partner with a little bit, and the response that I experienced in the 27 train derailment was unbelievable. The number of people that come to help and the coordinated efforts that have to be put in play to manage that event, because it doesn't go away in a couple hours. It's here for weeks and sometimes months, as we're seeing in East Palestine. But the long and the short is really what the manager mentioned. It's the support that we get in the resource capability that we have, but it's the coordinated effort that we've been able to learn from past train derailments. And that's at the public safety director's level, that's at the EMA director's level, and as you've seen in East Palestine, even up to the state and the federal level with the governor. What we do, we follow that pretty closely. That Sunday night, we were up. I don't think many people realize this, but we were talking to the battalion chief that night. We were preparing an engine company to go to their staging in the morning. We did not pull the trigger on that. They were not called. And then we've tried to follow up on that incident just as learning lessons like we should. What I'd like to tell our community is that we have managed big deal events. Thanks to council, the community, we have a lot of resources here in our community. But when you get to that level, they're coordinated events that need to be structured and managed. And I think in our past, the city of Mentor has done very well with that. And the other thing I'd like to share to our residents is we don't think it's going to happen here, but we don't know when it's going to happen. As much as we try to prevent and prepare for, big deal events do happen. And we just say to have some personal accountability, sign up for the WIN system, maybe pack a kit so that if you do have to evacuate, you're prepared to do that and leave home for a couple days. You have some pre-thought as far as how you might manage that for your family. We've had a couple events that were close calls. We had a BP tanker derailments or rollover several years ago. Fortunately, we didn't have to evacuate. Just 2 years ago, we had a propane truck turnover. Fortunately, we didn't have to evacuate. We have a lot of business in our community that have EHS reporting and are big deal businesses. We work in fire prevention to keep them safe, and I'll end this here in a minute, but there's a lot of risks involved, and I think that the city of Mentor, at least for our fire department and the partners in public safety, have supported us very well so that we can be prepared the best that we can be prepared. We're going to look at what some of the findings are in East Palestine and try to learn from those. We tabletop all the time, not just in those incidents, but Perry Power Nuclear Plant is here, and we talk about that a lot, and we talk about the partnerships that we have with, the federal response team. So I just thank you for listening to me. I'm glad you brought it up. It's a big deal event. It's something we don't take lightly, and we owe it to our residents to be as prepared as we can, and I just want to thank you and the city for the support that we get, not just in our fire department, but in all of public safety. We've been through a lot. We've seen some significant events. So thank you for listening to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Kirschner.
Chief, if I recall in 2007, we had the wreck up by Painesville. Lubrizol has an extensive hazmat team out there, too, that was very helpful, too, and I presume they probably still do. So that's another resource that we have that a lot of communities don't have.
Thank you, and I won't continue to ramble, but Lubrizol has been a good partner with us for several things, and I'm glad you brought that up. The I-90 truck accident where we had to block and do some damming of some oil runoff, brake fluid runoff, you know, they were out that morning with some of their resources, and it goes back to what the city manager said, it's just a coordinated effort, and it usually initially falls on the local. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Chief.
Chief, we're lucky to have you and Chief Gunch. Both of you guys are fantastic, and just by what you said right now, you don't really say that much very often, but, you know, nobody really gets
Only
to
if he
know.
needs another fire truck.
Nobody really gets to know what you guys are doing all the time, you know? And that was a great report you just gave, because that's gonna give a lot of people a lot of confidence in the fire and the police, because we never really hear what you're really planning and what your plans are if something like that happens, and we appreciate that.
Thank you,
Thanks
sir.
a lot for your hard
Mr.
work.
President, if I could just add one thing to that, because I also want to share one of the things that the chief said was, you know, we greatly appreciate the trust that council puts in when we make our request for some of the specialized equipment. And we spend a lot of money on special suppression materials, on certain equipment. Probably the best example I can offer you is our regional response facility that we just finished about a year and a half ago constructing. That is exactly intended for LARD to manage, to hold a lot of that specialty equipment, that some of which we rarely use, and it also serves as a location where we can coordinate a regional, state, or even a response that requires coordination from up to the, you know, federal government and federal agencies. So we're as prepared as any community is, which is to say, when these things happen, they're still difficult, and you're seeing that right now. But I like to think that we have the pieces in place to manage it as well as any community.
Thank you, Mr. Fopiak. Anybody else? That was the manager's report. Clerk's correspondence.
Council is in receipt of a liquor permit Trex transfer from Restaurant Lombardi, Inc. in Columbus to Crab King in Lucius LLC at 8900 Menor Avenue, Suite 8900. And council's also in receipt of Menor Municipal Court month-end report, January 2023.
Thank you, Julie. Commission and committee reports. Council, you're in receipt of the Community Arts Commission, July 7th, 2022, August 8th, 2022, September 8th, 2022, October 6th, 2022, November 3rd, 2022, and January 5th, 2023. Board of Building and Zoning, December 13th, 22. Tree Commission, January 11th, 23. Municipal Planning Commission, January 19th, 2023. Old business. New business? We do have some people before council, and the sheet on top is Ed Salmon. Ed, you have 4 minutes, and please give your name and address for the clerk.
Hi,
Hi, Ed.
Ed Salmon, 7271 Center Street. All right, may I begin?
Yes.
All right, I'm not here to contest the Center Street Bridge Deck replacement. I understand that the work will proceed. The project duration, March 2023 through October 2024, is highly objectionable. Here's an article from October 2022, 4 months ago, from the West Virginia Department of Transportation. 10/3/2022. Second accelerated bridge deck replacement project scheduled on West Virginia Turnpike. The West Virginia Parkways Authority will begin construction on the second of 3 planned accelerated bridge deck replacement projects on the West Virginia Turnpike at 6 p.m. Sunday, October 9, 2022. The bridge deck replacement at milepost 1693 is expected to be completed by Saturday, October 15, 2022. The project will utilize concrete deck panels fabricated off-site to greatly speed up construction and minimize inconvenience to the traveling public. ABC bridge deck projects take about 2 weeks as opposed to 6 months for typical on-site construction. 1 week versus 20 months. time-saving construction methods should have been and should still be researched and implemented. Now I would like to discuss the proposed traffic flow decisions as they relate to the bridge construction works. My comments hereafter will include some questions as well. These are not rhetorical questions. I am hoping to receive some answers tonight or in the near future. I would also like each of my questions to become new agenda items for this council going forward. I will clear my schedule every other Tuesday night indefinitely. Should not maintaining two directions of traffic be the #1 priority? For example, even when interstates have major repair, traffic is routed from one side to the other, often for miles at a time with concrete dividers, all for the purpose of maintaining two-way traffic. This implies that two-way traffic is imperative to keep people and the economy moving. I believe that it is imperative. Center Street and Station Street is the specific junction of the southbound road closure. This is obvious by the eye test as well as being the stated south end of the project by ODOT. The plaza in which my businesses are located is called Center Station Plaza. It is the precise terminus of the closure. This puts me at a uniquely most disadvantaged location. Businesses to the north of the closure are not cut off by any means. There are still going to be two northbound lanes leading to them as always. If southbound traffic were open and northbound closed, I would be far better off. But since the opposite is true, my businesses are cut off from the bridge, as well as from that side of town to a good degree. My plaza and the businesses closest to mine are the ones cut off from consumers. Why is southbound traffic to be closed instead of northbound traffic? The cutoff end of the closure is the bad end, the end where you do not want to be. Any potential detour, and those available, Plaza Boulevard 306 Hopkins, are quite far away and would add extensive drive times. My business is quick food service, which is going to be uniquely disadvantaged by traffic flow decisions such as these. Other non-food service businesses in my immediate proximity will likely survive better because they are not customer time-sensitive operations. This project is scheduled per ODOT to last 20 months through October 2024. That duration, or even a duration of far less, could cause my businesses to shutter. My operating costs will not pause for a year and a half. I wish this were a case of me being overly concerned or overly sensitive to the effects of the closure. I don't believe this is the case. Every day, customers and other business contacts frequently mention the impending traffic closure to me, and they, without my input, quickly come to the conclusion that this will hurt my business and could cause many customers, including but not limited to those in the Tyler Boulevard corridor, to not come to my establishments due to the inconvenience and delay. I own Sidewinder Snack Shack and Froyo Twist in Center Station Plaza. I operated the Stir Fry restaurants in the space where Sidewinders currently is for 7 years, from 2015 to 2022. I know firsthand the extent to which time and quick service is important to food customers, particularly during lunchtime where people are taking a break from work. Whose decision is it to dictate the traffic flow? Did those individuals consider the potential negative impact to
Ed, your
businesses
time's
like
up, but I'm
mine?
going to let you continue a little longer.
All right, I'm almost done. Thank you, sir. Did those individuals consider the potential negative impact to businesses like mine on the south side of the closure? Can they reconsider? Do the assumed benefits of the traffic flow decisions outweigh the consequences that will arise? Some of those consequences will include damage to my business and to other businesses, particularly restaurants, between Station Street and Menor Avenue. I have an email from January 23 from ODOT District 12 representative that states traffic flow decisions were made by its project manager. However, 2 weeks ago, right here after this council meeting, I was told that the City of Menor has involvement and influence on the traffic flow decisions. It is my understanding that ODOT is managing and performing the construction project, but is not responsible for the traffic flow decisions. If the proposed traffic patterns are not changed, I would expect to incur heavy damages. I will very well may not be able to sustain them. Can we discuss a relief fund for impacted businesses? I would like to get this established as an agenda item for this council. 2 more paragraphs, very short ones. I have been a restaurant proprietor in the Center Station Plaza since 2011, and during that span of 12 years, I've spent $300,000 plus in construction, remodeling, equipment, and startup costs for the restaurants. It took me more than a decade of working 60 to 70 hours per week to pay that off. Now that investment is in jeopardy due to this bridge traffic flow issue. These businesses are my livelihood and my career. They are not a hobby or an ancillary avenue for passive income. I'm not wealthy, nor am I a big corporation. If this situation causes the impact that I believe it will, I expect to incur damages to one or both of my businesses. In addition to significant and possible terminal damages to my businesses, another consequence of the traffic flow decisions will include the loss of jobs for those employed at negatively impacted businesses, particularly restaurants on Center Street between Station Street and Menor Avenue. I am aware that the construction project will provide a few jobs, perhaps to those employed by J.D. Williamson Construction Company out of Talmadge, outside of Akron. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is Greg Garbeloff. Greg, give your name and address for the clerk,
Okay.
please. Thank you. You have 4 minutes.
All right, thank you. My name's Greg Garbeloff. I'm the owner of G-Licious Pizza. It's located on Center Street. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for hearing me out, me voice my opinions, concerns on the 615 Bridge project. Let me be clear. I'm not stating that I'm against the repairs to the infrastructures, nor do I take issue with the city of Menor and their diligence in securing vast majority of funding from federal and state government as opposed to tapping our local coffers. As a small business owner, I'm physically located on the south end of the bridge. However, I would like to state clearly for the record the negative impact of the one-way traffic pattern will have upon my business for a year and a half of this project. I operate an independent pizzeria. Sorry. We have no corporate backing nor franchise. Do you know that the United States consumes 100 acres of pizza a year? If you pardon my expression, my business survives on a very thin slice of that market. Within the city of Menor, the competition in this sector is fierce. Menor is the third highest density of pizza shop per capita in the nation. Convenience is the key in this industry. Customers want their pizza fast, they want it hot, whether it's they're receiving a delivery or picking up themselves. Carry-out orders account for 60% of my sales. A customer taking a long way around from 615 or I-90 or Hopkins is going to drive past many other locations and options. Of course, I believe that I provide a superior product, but when it comes to pizza, if it's cold, by the time the customer gets it home, that takes a lot away from my quality. We pride ourselves on driver safety as well. Drivers are expected to be prompt, but never to sacrifice safety in the interest of speed. With the return times on deliveries taking the long way around, this places a great deal of pressure on our hardworking drivers. Delivery drivers are the 8th most dangerous jobs in the United States per OSHA. Rerouting to compensate the detour exposes them to more railroad crossings and busy intersections, and adds a significant number of extra miles to what we already deal with in fuel prices and the rising cost in fuel prices, as well as vehicle wear and tear. We are talking about this being the new reality of business on Route 615 for a year and a half. The time frame covers not one but 2 summers, which happens to be the busiest season in my industry. I understand that I am late to the party. This project has already been approved as is and is not likely to change despite what I and others share here tonight. Even so, I hope that with my words find at least some purchase in your thoughts. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. If I didn't believe in my product, my people, my dream, I wouldn't have made it here the past 3 years. In that time, I have had good fortune to meet and feed so many wonderful folks here in the city of Menor, and I look forward to continuing doing so. Thank you for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you, Craig. We have one more speaker, Elaine Foster. Please give your name and address to the clerk.
Take this off. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Council. Appreciate that. My name's Elaine Foster. I prefer not to give my address as I indicated on the paper. This is going to be redundant to some of you. Obviously, you know why I'm here. However, I want to continue my cause. It may fall on deaf ears, I'm not sure, but maybe there's a heart out there that will hear what I have to say and join me. Here to talk about the hunting and the culling of the deer in Mentor. And it's been around for at least 10 plus years, and we continue to do the same programs. The hunters are here from the beginning of, well, the middle of September until January, and then the culling starts. It's inhumane. The hunting is inhumane. It's done by bow and arrows. They miss their mark. I had a deer in my backyard a couple of years ago that had got hit. It was a big pool of blood. The culling continues in neighborhoods after the hunters have done what they do. Then we have the sharpshooters that come out. There was an officer who asked me, why do I still continue to come out here and do this? And why do I show up at some of the sites? Not to be belligerent, not to be foul-mouthed. I'm pretty polite, actually, when I'm out on the road. My concern is the neighborhoods are not safe when that goes on. They say that they are, but they're in the backyards of some of my neighbors. The deer are in numbers. I'd like to get the numbers. I've requested the numbers from the city of Mentor because they did not have a flyover this year, and I'm just trying to get transparency from the people who are responsible and hold these positions of authority in these programs. I've asked for the numbers, I've asked for the counts, I've asked for locations, and it's sometimes fallen on deaf ears, sometimes I get some response. But there's a letter that goes out to the residents, and I'll just read one paragraph real quick. I know I've got 4 minutes, I'm going to read real quick. These activities are being conducted by the City of Mentor as part of a comprehensive deer management program timed at increasing public safety by reducing the number of deer-related vehicular accidents. I've tried to get those reports, and I have not been able to get those for the last couple of years. Reducing the destruction of and restoring of natural habitat destroyed by deer overpopulation. Reducing private and public property destruction and improving the overall health of the white-tailed deer herd within our city. These activities have been approved and permitted by the Ohio Department of Natural Resource Division of Wildlife and will be conducted under their general supervision review. All deer removed as a result of this effort will be donated for distribution to regional food banks. That may be true in part, but for sure I've talked to people in the wildlife industry, and they are not just distributed to food banks. They're distributed to wildlife centers where they're rehabbing wildlife, and they're being torn to pieces by the animals that they are rehabbing. That's a proven fact, and I've talked to the people that do that. The deer they're not an unhealthy herd. I've talked to the Ohio Division of Wildlife. They've never been an unhealthy herd, and I wish that there be consideration made to do something different. Other communities are managing their programs without the killing, without the culling, and without the ongoing slaughter of the deer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elaine. Council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Martin.
move into,
I got the language if you
oh,
want.
you do? Okay.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Kirschner.
would move
I didn't know you
to,
had it.
I'd make a motion to go into executive session, adjourn executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 12122, G8, to consider confidential marketing plans and specific business strategy directly related to requests for economic development assistance, as well as possible public infrastructure improvements directly related to the project.
Executive session.
Second.
Executive session, council. Oh, call the roll, Julie, please.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Up there.
Council?
Mr. President, I move that we go back into regular council session.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned.
Good, Wendy.